I implore the heart this morning, awaken, arise from the slumber of indifference, pierce through the fog of routine, and behold the weight and urgency of communion. Many go through the motions, opening eyes but leaving lids heavy, sipping coffee, reading calendars, but denying the soul that sacred encounter. Yet this hour, when the world lies quiet, when the chaos of the day has not yet swallowed the soul, there stands a threshold, a moment pregnant with possibility, when the soul may turn and seek direction, may wrestle, may plead, may listen. Do not imagine that devotion is a shallow ritual, no mere pious checklist to soothe conscience. It is a battle. To draw near is to step into conflict. To expect guidance is to stare into mystery, to submit to a will that transcends the fleeting agendas of the flesh. Morning devotion is the battlefield on which the affections are weighed, where hearts are pried from idols and tethered to what is eternal. As the eyelids open, let the mind not immediately chase the cares of the day. Rather pause, breathe. Let the memory of the brokenness of yesterday come. Let the awareness of weakness come. Let the awareness of need come. Then with trembling boldness for desperation breeds boldness, draw the heart out through worship, through confession, through petition, through listening. If the soul leaps past these, it walks blind. Confession must begin before petition. How many approach seeking direction, but carry within secret sins, hidden anxieties, unrepentant resentments. The soul must first be cleansed, not in pretense, not in glossing over sin, not in toleration, but in humble acknowledgement. Here I stand in debt, enslaved to folly, with prejudices and affections that rebel. Confession rips away the veil that would distort the face of God, that would distort the clarity of counsel. Without it, devotion is a masquerade, a bribe, a self-indulgence, then worship, not a list of demands, but an admission of sovereignty. In worship, the soul is forced to see that counsel flows not from one who is arbitrary, but from one enthroned in holiness, wisdom, compassion. The posture is not of dominance, but of surrender. The offer is not of bargaining, but of offering the allegiance of self, that directness might be granted. The life that seeks guidance must first bow, in that hour, to worship. After confession and worship, present the requests. Lay bare the heart in desperation. Ask for clarity. Ask for strength. Ask for deliverance from confusion. Ask that the paths might align with purpose deeper than convenience. But do not rush this. Let the soul linger in the asking. Feel the tension of uncertainty, the ache of not knowing. In that tension is faith's test. Many flee from tension, crave immediate heat, but guidance often glimmers faintly, in whispers, in dawn's dim light. The mature soul will wait, then silence. After the heart speaks, the voice must quiet. The pages of Scripture may open, the ears must incline. Perhaps the counsel will come as a phrase, a turn of metaphor, a flicker of insight from the text. Perhaps the stillness will betray nothing, but that is acceptable. The seeking is more precious than the immediate answer. The posture of waiting in silence refines the soul, humbles the ambition, cultivates dependence. In silence, guidance begins to coalesce. Let the morning devotion not be separate from the rest of life, as though one compartment. No, the devotion must press into the day, condition the soul to recall at the merchant's stall, at the meeting, in conflict, in decision. This morning I sought direction. What did I discern? What was impressed? The life becomes a continuation of morning's gesture. The mind, trained in the quiet, learns to hear that echo in moments of turmoil. Beware the great danger, reading devotion as mere fuel for ambition. Too many seek guidance in order to execute plans, domination, success. But devotion is not a ladder of self-advancement. Its genuine calling is transformation of soul, not merely alignment of plans. If guidance is received, but the heart does not bend, the direction becomes curse, a sharper blade in the hand of a stubborn spirit. The highest aim is not comfort, not efficiency, not social acclaim, but purity, fidelity, conformity to truth. Consider the birds of the air, the lilies of the field, they neither spin nor toil, yet their needs are known. But do they plan empires? No. Our devotion must echo that childlike trust, but with a seriousness born of covenant, knowing there is one who attends to every sparrow, who commands the seas, yet draws near to the contrite. So the morning hour is no sentimental pause, it is a covenant act. It acknowledges need, yields will, invites that higher hand to order footsteps. Do not imagine that guidance always comes in dramatic revelation. Most often it comes through Scripture, through the slow illuminating work of the Spirit in the mind, through conviction, through a redistribution of desires. There may be no lightning bolt, no audible voice. The discipline is to learn to discern the lining of counsel, the coherence of paths, the inward peace that roots not in avoidance, but in alignment. The taste of guidance is tested by its fruit: humility, love for truth, willingness to walk the way even when uncomfortable. Let every morning devotion carry the posture: O Spirit, if any thought, any affection, any plan, any motive is unworthy, reveal it. I do not ask for direction apart from cleansing. This humility guards against pride, presumption, manipulation. A heart that demands direction but resists correction is a fool that desires a path but refuses the map. When darkness of uncertainty presses later in the day, recall the morning. The soul bears a memory like a lodestar. Even if's not full clarity, there is an inclination, a lean. When choices diverge, one path may sit heavier, gentler, more consistent with the voice heard in morning. Use that. It may not be final, but it is better than impulsive leaps. Another danger, laziness, to excuse devotion because of fatigue, busyness, pressing demands, that is the seduction. But one who would lead or influence a life must first be disciplined in hidden chambers. If that hour is lost, the whole trajectory is derailed. The enemy will gladly swallow small devotions so large ones collapse. The battle is fought at dawn. The small capitulations are the open gates. And never forget that guidance is not merely for decisions, but for posture, for motives, for affections. What business to consult guidance for tasks while departing from truth in the heart? What use to be directed into ministry if daily life remains untethered to integrity and love? The direction one seeks must transform character, not merely schedule. Expect opposition. Even in the calm of morning, the soul may rebel, dragging to thoughts of distraction, drifting into worry about bills, tasks, news. The mind fights to assert domain. That struggle is normal. Press through. Tell wandering thoughts, this hour is consecrated. Gather the scattered mind. Return to the text, to the prayer, to the waiting. Each return is a triumph. Each recapture is a refining. Beansick the soul to the sovereignty of God. The posture must be, if these paths align, I will walk. If closure comes, I will obey. If the way is hidden, I will trust. Do not manipulate, do not demand, do not approach as debtor demanding debt. Approach as child, trembling, needy, open. Submit all agendas to that sovereignty. If the plan shifts, if the path changes, if the open door becomes closed still, the commitment remains to press forward, to trust further. Let the morning devotion not be limited in time. Some reserve 10 minutes, then hurry, but true devotion expands time, absorbs gaps, fills the in-between. Let mind wander back, in quiet moments, to the posture of that hour. Let the life of devotion bleed into conversations, tasks, decisions. Let that morning be not the only moment of seeking, but the foundation for a life of continual submission. Guard against pride in guidance. Sometimes direction is clear, sometimes it is opaque. The mature soul does not despise delay or precision. The servant may walk in ambiguity, leaning, discerning, asking, obeying incrementally. The impulse to demand full clarity before step is often an excuse for fear. Walk the light you have, step in faith. If the path is unclear, move forward in small obedience, trusting that further steps and further clarity will be granted. But do not postpone all movement. Encourage your soul. The one sought is not distant, disinterested, mechanical. The one guiding is not remote, cold. The one who attends is attentive, personal, wise beyond measure. The devotion is not a transaction, but encounter. The desire is not to extract counsel, but to join in counsel, to be shaped, transformed, led. Do not lean on your own understanding later in the day. Many receive clarity in the morning and then allow the patterns of the flesh to retake priority. That is to nullify what was sought. When circumstances press, when emotions rise, when others pull, return to that morning. Remind the heart, this counsel was sought, this posture offered. Let the scaffolding erected in that hour hold in the day's wind. Sometimes the guidance given will cost, demand surrender, require a break with comfort, call to humility. Do not shrink. The soul that seeks only safe direction will never follow to Calvary, never taste the heights, never endure the path of obedience. The call is often narrow, painful, lonely. The cost is high, but the reward steady steps, inner peace. Transformation far outweighs the comfort of a path unchallenged. Remember that God's guidance is always consistent with prior revelation. If an inclination, impression, suggestion contradicts the revealed word, it is to be rejected. The morning devotion is not an invitation to novel direction opposed to truth, but to discover how the timeless word speaks to present matters. Guidance is not new law, but insight grounding in the revealed will. Never force a path that conflicts with what is known. Let direction always harmonize with character, with justice, mercy, love, humility. The danger of presumption looms, to assume that every thought that glimmers in devotion is divine. No, many arise from vanity, from desire, from fear, from selfish ambition. The sieve is rigorous. Test impulses, test inclinations, test with counsel of others, test with fruit over time. Many were misguided by romantic impulses. The mature servant delays final, resolve until testing, confirmation, endurance of pressure. Do not be hasty. Commit to consistency. The flower that blooms one morning and is neglected later fades. Let devotion become heartbeat, not event. Let the soul hunger for that hour. If absence comes, the soul knows sorrow, emptiness. Fill gaps with what communes, not with distractions. The habit of seeking guidance must be woven into the fabric of life, not carried only in seasons of crisis. And treasure the assurance that in moments of darkness one is not left orphaned. Even when guidance seems absent, the faithful seeking is itself precious. The tension of unknowing is sometimes the very shape of faith. To linger, groping, trusting, that is the posture of covenant reliance. Even if paths are blurred, the repressed cries, the surrendered will, the open heart are not ignored. The silence is pregnant, the wait is meaningful, the seeking is heard. Let the life that emerges from morning devotion be courageous. Let the steps taken be bold in the measure allowed. Do not shrink back in fear when the way is hard. The soul that has stood trembling before the throne at dawn is strengthened to walk through trial in daylight. The doubts that pressed in morning, if not denied but wrung out, become instructors, informers, guardrails. The one who has sought direction early can walk by faith later. Pause to consider the multitude who never gave a thought to direction before action. They rush into commitments, relationships, decisions without light. Many ruin themselves by impatience. Let not that be your inheritance. Walk drastically different. In the quiet, before the pounding of the day, give the soul priority. Seek before you act, and when action comes, let it carry the echo of that seeking. Every decision, great or small, in marriage, in relationship, work, speech, attitudes, all are part of a vast tapestry woven. The morning direction is not only for the big shifts, but for the small gestures. What to speak, what tone, what reproof, what encouragement, what restraint. The care of these small matters often reveals allegiance more than the grand gestures. The guidance for small things preserves the path for the large. If trials come, return to the morning. If confusion abounds, return to that hour. If others push, return to that hour. Do not be tossed by the waves, ephemeral opinions, tides of emotion. The inner scaffolding that was laid in devotion braces. The one who has sought direction early clings to that point of contact. The soul learns steadiness. Do not neglect counsel of community. Even as the soul seeks in solitude, the communion of brothers and sisters is a refining context. Share the mornings, debrief struggles, bring impressions to light, test together. Community argues against delusion, against isolation, against self-justification. The private seeking must find counterpart in the public body. But guard that public advice not be a substitute for the morning's communion. It is confirmation, not the originating light. Discern seasons. Some mornings are clear, answered. Some are thick, obscure. Some seasons demand more waiting, more wrestling. Faith holds through all. Do not despair in a dry season, nor grow proud in a clear one. The root of dependence is deeper than impressions. The root is trust, submitted will, battered faith. The courage to seek in darkness is greater than the ease to seek in light. Remember that direction given may not look like human logic. It may confound reason, frustrate expectations, but the soul that submits to that twisting pathway learns not only what to do, but who to become. Guidance is not only about vocation or project, it is about formation, humility, perseverance, faithfulness, love. The direction shapes the inner clay. Throughout the day, remain sensitive. The world presses loud, demands attention. But the soul that sought in morning is stirred by small promptings. A word book, title catches notice, a conversation's tone rings oddly, a verse surfaces, a conviction surfaces. Those are echoes of that morning's counsel, fragments of direction, cues. The mature life watches for them, is alert. The day becomes not a blur, but a tapestry of cues linked to that morning's petition. Rehearse reflection in evening. Before sleep, return to that hour. What did I discern? What impulses struck me? What temptations, what thoughts? Did I live according to the leanings? Where did I deviate? Did I notice the echoes? This reflection refines the next morning's seeking. It is a loop. Devotion, day, reflection, devotion again. In that loop, growth happens. Without reflection, devotion becomes escapism, disconnected from life. Do not allow distraction to rob the morning. Social media, news, noise these intruders press before the devotion begins. Many open eyes and immediately scroll, check messages, entertain anxieties, Resist that. Before any external input, reserve sacred space. The mind must not be inoculated with the world before it meets the living Word. Let the first input be communion, not entertainment or obligation. Train the heart for input later. If interruptions come, urgent tasks, voices, demands carry a memory, let the heart reply, I have consulted, I am anchored. Even breathing pause, return inward to that communion, recalibrate. Let no interruption silence the interior voice established in the morning. The heart must know that devotion is not optional, but foundation. The posture of urgency must undergird every morning. Do not treat guidance as optional addendum. It is necessity. The life that ignores sacrifice of this hour forfeits counsel, stumbles, perhaps in ignorance moves, but if clarity abandoned, regret will follow. So awaken with urgency, not sluggishness. Rise with intention, not lethargy. Teach the younger, the inexperienced, the faint. Let no one appease their conscience by skipping this hour. The idols of comfort, ease, sociability are subtle. Many say, I'll seek later in a dormitory, in a ride, during lunch. But devotion during the noise yields less. The soul is starved. Discipline begins. First light, first breath, first petition. No excuse. If rising earlier demands sacrifice, let it be made. The sacrifice yields far more. Clarity, guidance, guarded integrity, less regret. When devotion becomes burden, examine motives. If ever the devotion is cold, lean into grief, hunger. Do not abandon. The soul's coldness is not proof that guidance is absent, rather that hunger is faint, that the soul is dulled by neglect. Press through, relinquish comfort, grip the word, wrestle in prayer. The flame is revived by fuel and struggle. Teach discipline over spontaneity. Spontaneous devotion is romantic, but weak. The devotion that is regular, appointed, regardless of feeling, is strong. Your soul must rise even when unwilling. The command that binds the unwilling builds faith. The arms folded in prayer on days of nausea are more precious than the fervor of sweet mornings. The true devotion is fidelity in the lean times. Let the morning devotion be shaped by Scripture, not solely by desires. Seek direction in the broad narrative of truth, in wisdom's pathways, in narratives of those who walked, in promises, in commands. Let the word speak first. Let the mind bend to Scripture, then the heart petition, then the silence wait. The word is lens, filter, frame. No impression inconsistent with Scripture is valid. The word refines the cues. Encourage patience. The path of maturity is slow. The one who sought direction morning after morning, year after year, learns a different confidence, not of immediacy, but of rootedness, of depth. The rushing decision maker often stumbles. The one who waits, discerns, tests, moves gradually, builds foundation. Trust the long arc. Trust the slow shaping. Trust that faith is refined by patience. Feel the weight of responsibility. To seek direction is not to abdicate, but to embrace stewardship. The life is entrusted. The heart, the gifts, the time, the calling, all must be stewarded. The morning devotion is not optional, it is central. To neglect it is to starve the vision, to drift, to lose ground. Realize that every minute of guidance matters. The decisions small, the tone of speech, the posture of listening, the margin of rest all hinge on soul's alignment. The morning devotion is the amplifier of those margins. Be ready to obey promptingly. When a nudging, a conviction, a clarity arises even faintly, do not delay. The soul that waits for perfection loses timeliness. Some direction comes not fully clear, but sufficient for the next step. Step. The obedience validates the seeking. The day will bring tests. Whether you obeyed in minor things proves whether the seeking was true. The one who hears and delays often forgets and neglects. Hear, step, trust. Let the thought of the final day, of ultimate accountability, press upon the soul in the morning. This life is brief. The morning devotion is among the few times set aside in the rush. The weight of decisions, of relationships, of legacy, they converge. The choices in the little hours ripple across years. The heart that tomorrow trembles at regret would do well to tremble today in seeking. Let mortality sharpen hunger. Let the brevity of breath intensify the seeking. Let the language of prayer be honest, unpolished, broken, raw. This is not about eloquence, but about transparency. The one who hides, pretends, pieties in polished phrases will miss the clarity of voice. The broken tremble, the confessed soul scrawls its cry. The seeking is not about sophistication, but simplicity, fullness of need, openness of will, readiness to obey. The posture is real, not theatrical. Know that guidance does not always come by immediate clarity, but sometimes by direction and delay. Sometimes the answer is wait, sometimes remain, sometimes to hold tight. The patience in delay is itself counsel. The servant who presumes that guidance must always accelerate is blind to seasons. The wisdom to abide is as vital as the wisdom to move. The one who stirs too soon often stumbles. Wait until the wind moves, until the opening appears, until the confirmation aligns. Let the morning devotion remind the heart of the mystery of call. The direction is not always self-evident. It is partly hidden, mediated by grace, shaped by circumstances. The servant must be pliable, teachable, responsive. Do not codify guidance too rigidly. Allow for shifts, revisions, redirections. The bent arrow may adjust mid-flight. The one who trusts stiffly often fractures. Trust that guidance is living, not mechanical. Beware of deception. Sometimes the soul imagines guidance where nothing was given. Sometimes the heart justifies a path by a past impression. The devotions of one morning cannot be misused to anchor a path that no longer aligns. The disciple must revisit, test, revise, cling not to impressions but to ongoing communion and clarity. The disciplined revisiting of counsel is wise, not double-mindedness. To those tempted to skip the duty in seasons of busyness, realize that precisely in busy seasons the counsel is needed most. The noise, the pressure, the choices multiply. The soul must precede tasks. Without the seeking, you'll react, manage, scramble, but with it, you'll move from center, not from deficit. The devotion is not luxury, it is necessity in storm. The value of that hour only magnifies when the days are dense. Let the heart compare the fear of obedience with the fear of regret. A path may ask sacrifice, the flesh balks, but the regret of not walking, of avoiding the cost, of failing to follow that morning's lean, that regret is sharper, slower, more corrosive. Courage grows in those first tremulous steps. One act of obedience builds momentum for the next. The morning may only yield a sliver of movement, but that sliver is seed. Encourage perseverance. Many begin, few endure. The soul that abandons in drought loses gains of days before. Let no boredom, no tiredness, no appetite for ease steal the hour. Let the memory of past communion call the heart back. The cross, bearing soul lingers still in seeking, even when pleasures fade. The steady flame is kindled in seasons of weariness, not only in fervor. Remind that counsel is not for the elite, the broken, the weak. The stumbling are precisely those invited to this morning. The strength is not prerequisite, but fruit. The one who feels ill-equipped should all the more bow, pour out, plead for direction. The lack of confidence is not excuse, but motive for deeper dependence. The lesser the capacity, the greater the need to seek. Teach the heart to write or record impressions. When glimmerings come words, scriptures, nudges commit them quickly. The mind forgets, the flesh distracts. The daily journal, the margin note, the whispered phrase, these become markers, landmarks. Later, when season dulls, one returns to earlier markers and sees the thread. The record guards against deceit, confirms patterns, reveals fidelity or drift. Don't neglect fasting or other disciplines that sharpen sensitivity. Sometimes guidance is masked by dullness, intoxicated by pleasures, anesthetized by noise. The discipline of simplicity, of fasting, of restraint, of solitude, these recalibrate the senses. The one who walks on sugar and caffeine, bombarded by news and noise, cannot hear faint whispers. The consecrated life is cultivated by external sobriety as well as internal prayer. Encourage ministry through morning devotion. As counsel flows into your life, let it overflow into others. The one who seeks for self becomes shallow. The one who seeks for others draws deeper. Use the clarification gained to speak, to rebuke, to comfort, to exhort. The value of direction is not hoarded but given. Let the light that dawned in private become radiance in public, though filtered through humility and love. In relationships, before speech, before posture, let the morning direction guide. The partner, the friend, the neighbor, the tone, the word, the restraint each must reflect the counsel gained. The one who seeks alone but lives without reference to that seeking proves that the morning was for the soul, not for the world. Let the direction shape how you love, how you correct, how you give, how you restrain. Let the morning devotion be urgent even in old age. Do not presume that maturity frees from seeking. The seasoned pilgrim must still bow in the dawn, still plead, still wait. Perhaps even more, for the weight of years, the proximity of horizon, the sharper stakes call for more urgent direction. Never imagine the season of flourishing excuses devotion. If anything, the times of height demand greater humility and dependence. Let the memory of past misdirection and failure drive humility. If many steps were taken in arrogance or impatience, let those become reminders not to repeat. The scars of folly are maps toward caution, not anchors toward despair. The morning devotion is as much repentance as petition. Let the memory of wrong turns drive the regret and fuel the humility. Teach that guidance is not only for ministry, not only for big decisions, but for the self's engagement with time, with leisure, with health, with rest. Even in trivial choices, how long to rest, what to read, how much sleep guidance matters. The soul that ignores guidance in small matters loses sensitivity and coherence when bigger calls come. The discipleship is total. Let the soul internalize a posture of asking, not commanding. Sometimes the voice of pride commands guidance. Show me. The spirit of humility asks, will you show? The shift from demand to ask is crucial. The one who demands resists mystery. The one who asks embraces the unknown. The difference is between a boss and a child. The seeking posture mourns preparedness, expects nothing, but opens to all. Let not the devotion be group, seduced by outward performance. Many gather, sit, repeat pious phrases, yet the heart is elsewhere. The public morning meeting is not substitute for private seeking. Each must bow alone, tremble alone, plead alone. If the public form substitutes for interior communion, the soul starves. The private hour must precede all else. Train in discernment of timing. If a word arises to act, to speak, to move, test whether that arises from morning or from present heat. Sometimes the eyes glint with ambition, not counsel. The soul must distinguish between motive and direction. Be slow to act, swift to test. The morning's counsel is guard against rashness, not incubator of it. Pray that impulses align. The mature life is able to delay, to test, to confirm before action. Recall that guidance is intimately tied to joy. The one who follows direction, though paths narrow, moves in joy that transcends circumstances. The heart feels coherence, alignment even in hardship, even on uphill slopes. That joy is not naive happiness, but the quiet assurance that steps fit the map. The morning devotion is pilgrimage toward that joy, path by path. Stand awake to the reality that in failing to seek, many wander. A life without direction is adrift. Many drift into relationships, vocations, attachments that feel urgent but are empty. The morning devotion is the counter to drifting. It anchors the soul, aligns the compass, corrects the drift. The lost are not always those who choose the wrong path. They are often those who never charted any. The discipline of seeking is in itself a guard against a wandering life. Teach the nature of guidance as forming intimacy, not as blueprint only. Part of direction is knowing the one who guides, not just where to go. As you seek, your heart grows more acquainted, your trust deepens, your affections reconfigure. The direction is not merely external movement, but inward transformation. The path becomes secondary to the growth of communion. Even if the plan shifts, the heart is more rooted. Let the morning devotion be an act of warfare. The enemy courts every distraction, every laziness, every excuse. The mind will scheme justifications just today, just this week, just a few more minutes of rest. Do not yield, the warrior soul rises, the breach is opened in the small concessions. Guard the beginning. The conquest of the day begins there. Remind the heart that guidance is gift, not earned right. The seeking does not obligate an answer by formula. There is grace, mystery, hiddenness. Some waiting may extend. Some clarity may withhold. The soul must neither demand nor despair. The proper posture is to ask, to wait, to obey in small steps, to continue seeking. The demand is arrogance. The despair is unbelief. Faith clings even when the voice is faint, and so the soul, morning after morning, builds a lineage of seeking, a heritage of whispers. The one who tugs at the threads will see patterns emerge, notice recurring cues, recognize themes. The months and years of devotion form a tapestry. The direction is not always new. Sometimes it is deepening the same call, walking same path with greater clarity. The morning devotion is for the long haul, not for a season. Let no fiery fervor be the standard. Some mornings the heart trembles, some mornings it is cold. The mature soul persists through dryness. The fire is stoked by faith, not only feeling. The devotion is measured not by explosion, but by constancy. The flame sustained is stronger than the spark. The one who only worships in warmth will abandon in frost. The discipline is to worship even when icy, to plead even when numb, to listen even in silence. Encourage bold risk when direction comes. If that sliver of clarity appears, if soul leans, if circumstances align move, the timid should not abuse seeking as excuse for inaction. Faith obeys the whisper, even if frail. The faithful step must match the seeking. Delay in step can harden into stubbornness. The tension between seeking and doing must resolve in willingness to obey. Warn against idolizing clarity. The craving for unambiguous direction can become idle. Life often demands movement through fog. The mature soul resigns in part to walking by faith, not by sight. The morning hour gives orientation, not always map. The steps ahead may remain misty. The courage is to walk the next step, trusting that further light will come. Persist through misunderstanding. Some paths once taken under conviction may seem to wrong turn. The soul should not collapse into regret, but return, repent, recalculate, seek anew. The morning devotion must be flexible. It must sustain the humility to admit error, the courage to correct, the faith to continue. The disciple is not one who never errs, but one who returns to the throne when erring. Teach the posture of urgent dependence, not mastery, but need. In communion, recognize that emptiness is allowed, weakness expected, dependence celebrated. The soul must say, "No wisdom but yours, no strength but yours, no clarity but yours." The urgency of that confession keeps the heart alive, breaks delusion, honors sovereignty. Let the desire grow. Let the soul hunger for this hour more than sleep, more than news, more than early tasks. Let the heart feel absence when devotion is withheld. Let neglect make the heart ache. The affection for seeking must be cultivated. The desire to see counsel must surpass comfort. The greed for direction must press more than the appetite for ease. And so morning by morning, day by day, the life is reordered. The habits shift, the mind sharpens, the heart humbles, the steps steady. The whisper of counsel becomes more audible, the burdens lighten, the chaos organizes. The servant grows in coherence, integrity, peace. The life no longer drifts, it moves. The inward compass aligns. The soul marches steadily, though storms rage, though darkness comes, though the path blurs, the one who is tethered to the throne in the dawn can walk. The morning devotion becomes the sanctuary, the stronghold, the starting point of every advance. And in the end, when all is revealed, the one who sought will not feel ashamed for the steps, the fighting, the waiting, the trembling prayers, the surrendered will. The hugged cross of not knowing all these will testify that the life was anchored, directed, formed. It's a time for confession, worship, petition, and silent waiting, not to gain quick answers, but to align the heart with God's will. Guidance isn't given to serve our ambitions, but to shape our character, reveal sin, and forge deeper intimacy with the Lord. The morning devotion trains the soul to walk by faith, not by sight. It builds spiritual discernment and anchors us against impulsiveness, pride, and drift. The fruit of guidance is not clarity alone, but a life that reflects humility, integrity, and unwavering dependence on God. Morning devotion is not a ritual, but a spiritual battlefield where the soul must humbly seek presence, direction, and transformation. This is a truth that must settle deep, for too many treat those early moments as perfunctory duty, as a box to check, a habit to maintain, rather than the very arena in which their spiritual life is forged. Let us enlarge that conviction to see the weight and urgency hidden in the dawn. When the first gray light appears, the world is still. The clamors, obligations, distractions have not yet poured in. In that hush lies an opportunity. That hour is a boundary between the night that hides things and the day that exposes. It is in the breach that the enemy presses, to distract, to numb, to seduce into spiritual slumber. Thus the soul must gird itself, not for routine, but for combat. The morning devotion is the front line of warfare. The flesh and the world press to dominate. The spirit calls to draw near. The soul stands between these forces. To reduce that hour to habit is to surrender the battle before it begins. The danger is that the body performs, the lips move, the eyes glance at verses, but the heart remains unmoved. That is ritual. It is the hollow shell of devotion, empty of conflict, untouched by transformation. But the soul is not inert, it is contested territory. There are powers that would silence, woo, or distract the inner life. The motion of worship, prayer, confession, listening, all are acts of resistance. They proclaim that the soul will not be shaped by noise, agenda, distraction, but by deliberate seeking, by reckoning that before any task or ambition, the soul must bow. To humble the soul in that hour is crucial. On the battlefield, there is no room for pride or presumption. One must stand trembling, face exposed, need confessed. That posture is not weakness, but honesty. The proud heart says, I can chart my own course, I need no counsel, I can trust my instincts, my intellect, my network. But the battle demands emptiness, openness, recognition that left to oneself the soul drifts. Subtle idols, desires, fears will clandestinely steer. To seek direction is to say, not my will, not my strength, not my wisdom, but something higher must guide. The admission is basic, radical, profound. Humbly seeking means first that the soul acknowledges its blindness. The mind is deceived, the heart is biased, the affections are polluted. Before casting votes on the direction of days, the seeker must pause and say, I know I do not see clearly. That humility opens the gates for truth to shine. It frees the soul from defending error, from arguing for comfort, from maneuvering toward preference rather than surrender. The posture is not to demand a roadmap, but to plead for illumination. The soul says, light what I cannot see, correct what I embrace wrongly, order what I intend in folly. The act of seeking is rooted in this naked vulnerability, but it is not enough to kneel. One must engage the word. The scriptures are weapon and lens. The pleas of the soul must echo back into the truths long established, the narratives of redemption, commands, promises, warnings. As one comes in that hour, the text is not decorative, it is life. It is standard, it is clarifier. The inward requests must be measured by that revelation. No impression allowed to contradict what has already been declared. The morning devotion arms itself with the word, holds it before every impulse, filters every prompting. It confronts the soul. Do you ask this in harmony with truth? Does your desire align with character, with justice, with love, with humility? The battle is deeper than asking which path. It is asking which impulses are worthy, which affections are true, which motives acceptable. The soul must be filtered by the word before it is led by impression. In that field, the soul confesses what is hidden: pride, impatience, fear, bitterness, lust, ambition. These enemies lurk. They masquerade as good desires, ambitions, callings. They may whisper urgings, press agendas, steer carefully. But the devout soldier will not trust subtle lights. The confession time is critical. The heart must name the deceit, expose the agenda, submit it to the word. Only when the heart is cleansed, unmasked, can it discern more clearly. Otherwise, impressions and inclinations become masks for deeper idols. Then worship. Worship is not ornamentation, not interlude before business. It is the proclamation of sovereignty, the acknowledgement that the one sought is worthy, is supreme, is holy. On the battlefield, before receiving direction, the soul must declare allegiance. In the angle of worship, the heart says, if you guide, I will follow. If you ask, I will obey. Your will above mine, your agenda above my ease. Worship breaks the grip of self-will. It loosens the control of desires. It frames the rest of the hour. It reorientates the posture, not consumer approaching to get answers, but pilgrim bowing to petition mercy, counsel, clarity. Then the prayers bold, broken, desperate must rise. But this is not a moment simply to rattle off requests. It is the heart dragging itself into the open. Show me, order my path, reveal what I cannot discern, steer me away from folly, illuminate the next step in the murk. The petitions may be many, tangled, vague, trembling. Let them. Clarity often hides behind fog. The raw cry is faithful. The soul that tries only to ask polished prayers is avoiding the depth of need. On the battlefield, one will not stand by the neatness of the lines, but by the fierce honesty of confusion. The act of asking in an earnest, vulnerable state is crux of fight. The soul says, I cannot go forward without light. Then comes the hardest posture, silence. After the voice is spent, the mind stills. The ears incline, the heart lingers. This waiting is not passive but active stamina. The one who craves direction must learn to wait in stillness. The silence is not empty. It is tension, it is space, it is readiness. The impulse to fill the quiet with more words, with speculations, with demands that is the subtle enemy. Resist, let the soul listen. Often counsel comes not in loud clarity, but in whisper, in sudden insight, in the convergence of thought and peace. Sometimes the silence gives nothing yet that too is part of the battle. The fighter stands when answers are withheld, clings when impressions are faint, that waiting sears dependence into the soul. As one rises from that battleground, the posture must press into the day. The morning is not divorced from the hours ahead, it is the foundation. In choices, conversations, tasks, when impulses tug, the memory of that hour must speak. The soul recalls what felt weighted, what glimmered, what peace or disquiet. The impact must echo. The direction of the morning is not idle, it is the compass. When forks appear, the soul leans back into the leanings impressed, the whisperings born of that hour, the constraints of what was sensed in communion. The warrior watches for cues, reminders, echoes. The job is to stay centered amid noise, and the battle continues. The adversary will not cease. The world will press with demands. Emotions, fears, anxieties, responsibilities will clamor. One might forget, drift. But the morning must have anchored. The soul must guard the breach, resist distraction, return to interior posture, even mid-day. The seeking does not end with the hour. It is a living tension. The trained soldier draws inward, recalls the vow made, retraces the lean, reclaims the whisper. The effectiveness of the day depends not on energy or strategy alone, but on whether that morning battle posture held. Transformation is deeper than direction. Morning devotion is not merely to discover which road to take, but to be changed so the taken roads produce holiness. The presence one seeks is not only counsel or convenience, but final conformity. The discipline reshapes the affections, aligns the motives, softens hardness, ferments humility, enlarges dependence. The battlefield is not to generate plans, but to form character. The soldier is not simply directed, but disciplined, tempered, healed. The transformation is the greater prize. You may receive direction, but if the heart remains proud, lukewarm, clinging to idols, the direction becomes poison. As the days grow into weeks, the soul begins to recognize patterns, recurring leanings, repeated themes, whisperings that resonate. The mature soldier discerns threads across devotions, notes convergences, tests consistency. The war becomes less about novelty and more about deepening fidelity to the voice already known. The voice becomes internal, the direction less like foreign instruction, more like a shaping from within. Sometimes the war yields clarity, sometimes confusion. Some mornings yield apparent directives, others yield only questions. The soldier must endure both. The one who only goes when the path is lit collapses in darkness. The one who goes always in confidence, but refused waiting walks in foolishness. The wise advance in faith, testing, humility, willingness to revise. The practice of starting each morning at the line guards against drift, presumption, delusion. Refuse to let the soul rest in the superficial. Let no charisma, no emotion, no excitement become substitute for depth. The battle is fought below the surface, in the trenches of motives and affections. The morning must be more than a moment of peace. It must be the beginning of the struggle for integrity across all hours. Do not yield to excuses. Many say, "I'm too tired, I'll do it later. The kids need me, the tasks press." But that is the deception. The more pressing the day, the more necessary the fight. To forego that hour is surrendering the field before it is engaged. The soldier must rise, wrestle temptation, refuse the seductive ease of postponement. Small betrayals of devotion accumulate into large drift. This war demands perseverance. The first victories are small, a mind that returns, a heart that lingers, a moment of peace. Yes, this is right. But soon the battles intensify, opposition from within, dryness, doubt, fatigue, discouragement. Yet the soldier does not give ground, the devotion continues. In those seasons the discipline is sacred. Even when emotions lack, even when clarity hides, the fight continues. The sword may feel dull, but the hand must grip. The battlefield teaches the soul dependence. In small choices, in daily temptations, one learns that without guidance one will stray. The posture of dependence becomes second nature. The heart no longer pretends autonomy, but lives aware. I need counsel more than plans. I need abiding more than novelty. I need cleansing more than direction. The march through days, under constant pressure, is possible because the morning disciplined, shaped, tethered the soul. As adversity comes, the one who has fought in the dawn is better poised to respond. When confusion, suffering, temptation arise, the soul recalls the posture, holds to the lean, resists panic, trusts. The memory of that steady fight becomes anchor. The inner warrior does not crumble because the battle was rehearsed when the flesh weakest. The morning devotion wove the sinews. Thus we see, this hour is not a token. It is battlefield, instrument, classroom, forge. The soul is formed to see, to hear, to obey. The direction gained is only one fruit. The transformation wrought is the greater. The posture hardened by trial becomes the backbone of faith. The life shaped by that early fight is steadier, more coherent, less swayed by external winds. Do not be content with the outward shell. Fight beneath, resist the drift. Let this conviction sink. The morning devotion is war, not ritual. Fight to seek presence, direction, transformation, and the heart that rises for that fight will not fade. Its passion will deepen, its clarity sharpen, its walk steady. True guidance demands far more than an occasional moment of clarity or a burst of resolve. It demands obedience, patience, and daily surrender, especially in the unseen, small choices of life. If one seeks direction but refuses the discipline of trusting through the tiny decisions, the major paths will unravel. In this deepening, we discover that the Spirit does not only guide in spectacular moments, but in the triviality, in the invisible minutiae of character and habit. To understand that is to glimpse the cost and beauty of walking under direction. Obedience is the first demand. To follow counsel is not simply to hear and then click approve in one grand action. It is to obey in the little things. When a thought surfaces in the quiet, check that conversation more gently, restrain the tongue, yield your schedule a little, soften your posture to that one person. We must do it. Small promptings are the training grounds of greater steps. When the heart obeys in the subtlest tensions, it matures in sensitivity, but if it resists small nudges, it hardens. A soul may look for broad strokes of direction and overlook the whispers in posture, tone, margin, patience, mercy. Yet those whispers test sincerity. The one who obeys them, even when they seem trivial, proves their hunger to align, their willingness to be shaped, their fear of drifting. True guidance demands the reflex of obedience, moment by moment, in the interior life, before external directions are even made clear. Patience is the second demand. Sometimes direction is delayed. Sometimes clarity is blurred. The soul must learn to wait without capitulating to pressure or jumping prematurely to what feels good. The one seeking must trust that timing matters. An early decision in haste may close a door that later insight would have opened. Every impatient move is a betrayal of the waiting. The one who cannot wait will lunge for any impression, interpret every inclination as command, mistake desire for direction. But guidance often matures slowly, like light through a prism, first faint, then stronger, then confirmed. The heart must inhabit ambiguity with dignity. That silent endurance is more precious than a forced answer. Through each waiting season, patience forms faith. The soul learns that guidance is not a firework, but a slow dawn, not a flash, but a melody. The one who despises the night may never hear the dawn. Daily surrender is the third demand. Each morning, each moment, the soul must say, "Your will, not mine. Your way, not my preference. Your timing, not my impatience." This perpetual killing of agenda, preference, recoil is the discipline of a true pilgrim. The grand decisions are nothing if the heart is still clinging in the margins, in comfort, in convenience. When hard calls press, give up. When fear clutches, release. When ambition whispers, lay down. The daily surrender is the constant revisiting of the cross. Not my comfort, not my agenda, not my honor, but your will. If guidance is given but the heart holds back, the path becomes bondage or self-justification. The decision to surrender must be renewed again and again, especially when shifting winds, mounting pressure, seductions surround. In the unseen, small choices, this triado, obedience, patience, surrender makes guidance real. For instance, you sense a word in mind. Who encourage someone, speak gently, pause before retorting. The impulse may feel insignificant, yet obeying it is often more consequential than some overarching plan. In that obedience, your soul tunes to the voice. If you ignore it, you dull the ear. Then tomorrow, when greater urgings rise, you will struggle to hear, or consider your schedule a temptation to overcommit, to act before clarity, to hurry a process. Resisting that and holding margin may be unseen self-governance. In quiet moments of rest, of restraint, of saying no, the heart practices surrender, or when temptation presses, frustration rages, emotion courses, do you yield or restrain? The small choices test whether the soul is truly aligned with guidance or merely enchanted by the idea of being guided. The integrity of guidance is verified in these ordinary crossroads. Consider relationships. A quick reaction, snap, precise, corrective, impatient, ignored. A slower, softened response obeyed. That moment is as much under guidance as a vocational leap. Many destructive ruptures began with the failure to obey a prompt in the small. The soul that consents to harshness or retaliation forfeits tender counsel, warps the path. But the one who submits, who holds the tongue, who yields spirit toward gentleness, may begin to see the contours of direction in the warp and weft of human interaction. Guidance is spoken in tone, in pause, in restraint, in mercy, if you have eyes to see, in habits, timing of rest, margin in silence, restraint in entertainment, the choice of reading, the scheduling of nurturing. Each decision marks whether the soul is under the stewardship of direction. You may sense you should rest before working, or delay pleasure to remember priorities. These whispers often test you more than the big decisions. If you refuse them, you choose drift. If you obey, you build a life tethered, not fragmented. The beautiful secret is, the path is shaped in these choices long before the fork appears. The foundation of direction is laid in daily surrender. In moments of fatigue, busyness, crisis, the impulse is to skip surrender, to accelerate, to lean on what feels urgent. But that is precisely when submission is most necessary. If you abandon daily surrender in the thicket of pressure, you lose your compass. The soul becomes reactive, defensive, unanchored. But if in pressure you still yield, if in the storm you still trust, the guidance you have gained is confirmed, resilience tested, character forged. True guiding presence is not proven when the sea is calm, but when the waves crash and the core declares, "Not my will, but yours." The unseen tensions also include how you use time, resources, attention. Perhaps there is prompt, pause before committing money, check generosity over impulsiveness, refuse excess in consumption. Those internal nudges are often subtle, nearly ignored. But they test whether the heart is governed by direction or by impulse, by desire, by convenience. The one who obeys such small impulses signals willingness to have all areas regulated by counsel. The one who resists signals zones of autonomy, pockets of rebellion, hidden idols. When guidance does come, maybe a sliver of clarity, a leaning, a conviction, the path demands courage and trust. But if the heart has not been trained in obedience, in patience in waiting, in surrender in smallness, that sliver becomes suspect, distorted, abandoned. The faith to walk a faint line requires muscles developed in minute decisions. The soldier who never trained in the minor skirmishes will falter at the major engagement. True guidance flows into life through the vessel of a surrendered soul, one refined in daily obedience, shaped by patient waiting, and softened by continual surrender. This is the path of formation. The more you walk it, the more your interior life aligns. The voice becomes clearer not just in big moments, but in the whispers. The filter grows finer. Not every thought is divine, but the maturity to test, to wait, to obey increases. You learn discernment, what to act on, what to hold, what to forget. The triad of obedience, patience, surrender becomes the grammar of your spiritual hearing. But know this, the cost is real. You will be asked to surrender preferences, ease, control. You will face tension between what seems tempting and what is true. You will taste the agony of uncertainty. Sometimes the prompt you obey leads into trial, confusion, cost, opposition. But that is not evidence of error, it is the path. The heart refined through obedience will see that suffering often confirms, clarifies, strengthens. The patient soul does not demand comfort, but faithfulness. The surrendered heart does not recoil from cost, but embraces it as part of the shaping. And even when answers remain hidden, obedience, patience, surrender remain posture. Guidance is entrusted over time. The soul does not collapse if clarity seems withheld. It endures. In time, the pattern emerges. Each surrendered decision, each patient waiting, each prompt obeyed builds a track, a pathway through the unknown. The scattered impulses begin to cohere. The faint lean becomes stronger. The journey forward is navigable not because the map is all drawn, but because the pilgrim is disciplined, attuned, refined. If ever you feel discouraged, that guidance seems slow or uncertain or obscure, yet you know in your depths that obedience, patience, surrender are unshaken, take heart. This is the substance of true guidance. The existence of the call is not in how speedily you see, but in how faithfully you walk. The one who abides in obedience even without full clarity is closer to the heart of direction than one who leaps under impulse with apparent sweetness, but in rebellion to the Spirit's pace. Let your life be counted by the cumulative weight of these small decisions. Let the fidelity in mundane obedience outshine rash leaps. Let patience in waiting overshadow the impatience of convenience. Let surrendered will prove deeper than crowned moments of insight. Over years, the soul shaped by this triad will be more faithful, more steady, more coherent. The great decisions will stand on the bedrock of countless small ones, each surrendered, each delayed, each restrained, each aligned. In that architecture of life, guidance becomes true, not illusory. So refuse the temptation to romanticize only the big call. Those are rare. Most of life is small. Most of obedience is unseen. Most of surrender is internal. Most of patience is staying in the fog, refusing panic. The one who treats only the grand moments as sacred misses that the Spirit is active in the daily drizzle, in the hidden crevices, in the choices no one knows. That is the marrow of direction. That is the discipline of a soul under guidance. In the end, true guidance from above demands that you surrender control in the small before you can walk in courage in the large. It teaches you that obedience is not an occasional burst but a posture, patience is not a season but a way, surrender is not a once and done but a daily kneeling, and if you are faithful in the little, you will be led in the greater.